Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. In today's episode on the Honda Transalp 750, we are going to be taking care of two of the major complaints that a lot of you have had about Honda's Transalp, which is number one, a lack of electronic cruise control, and number two, a lack of tubeless wheels. So today we're going to be installing and testing the Veridian cruise control system, and we're also going to be installing and testing a tubeless wheel conversion kit from Outex. Now, as always, when you are modifying your motorcycle using aftermarket parts, doing modifications that are outside of factory specifications, you are assuming some risk in doing that. So I am not liable for any potential issues that you may have if you choose to modify your own motorcycle. So please assume all those risks yourself and weigh the ups and downs of whether you want to make changes like this. Now, because I really fell in love with this cruise control system and I fully believe in this product, I've worked with the company, with Veridian Cruise, and with Jackson there, the president of that company, to give all of you, the viewers of Big Rock Moto, a discount on this product. I'm only working with this company because I've tested the product and I really believe in it, and I think it's a good product that I recommend, that I'm saying that, you know, this is something that I really think works really well and I want to share it with you. Now, I do get a small commission if you do order the Veridian cruise control system. So it's important to me that you understand that relationship. But if you do want to put cruise control in a Transalp with Veridian Cruise, you can pre-order the system now, and they're saying that delivery should be sometime late April. So it's just a pre-order right now as I'm filming this in late February. You're going to get, if you use a discount code BIGROCKMOTO, you're going to get 12% off your order. So it's a $300 system. If you get the soft touch switch, which I recommend, you're going to get 12% off that, and then I will get a small commission. So please take advantage of that if this is something that you want to order for your Transalp. This is not an official install video, so you should reference the manufacturer's instructions for things like installation videos. And again, I'm not taking any responsibility for things that may go wrong if you do these kind of changes to your bike. So the first part of this video is going to be the installation and the road test of the Veridian Cruise, and then part two will be the installation and then testing of the Outex tubeless wheel conversion. I'll put timestamps and chapters down below like I always do, so you can reference those. With all that out of the way, let's get into the garage and get started with the installation. All right, well, today is the day. I am holding in my hand electronic cruise control for the Honda Transalp. So this is by a company called Veridian Cruise, and they sent this out for me to test. And I'm super excited. I'm going to show you guys how this goes on, show you the process of getting it on. Then we'll go out and we'll take a ride and enjoy having cruise control on our Transalp. So here's what's included. If you buy the kit, you're going to get instructions and diagrams. He does a really good job providing like even the pictures of how to remove some of the stuff from the bike that you need to remove, like some of the fuel tank cowlings and things like that. Here's a control module, some plugs. So this is the soft touch switch, which most of you are probably going to want. This one has to be slid over the handlebars, which means that I think we have to pull this stuff off, pull the throttle off so we can slide this on. The instructions warn that if you try to stretch this thing over that you could snap this, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to do it the correct way. You can also choose, and he also included for me, this micro toggle switch. Now, if you buy the kit, you're only going to get one or the other. But definitely I want to go this way because it looks factory and it just looks a bit nicer. Some zip ties, a little electrical tap connector. There's one wire we have to tap. The instructions are pretty basic. Remove seat and battery, remove side cover, remove side cowl and fuel tank shelter, remove the hidden screws and lift the fuel tank. We don't have to remove the fuel tank from the bike, but remember when we got access to the fuel tank a few videos ago, to the air filter a few videos ago, we just lift this up. So remove this, remove this, remove this, loosen some bolts. This thing's got to come off. And then we can lift the tank up to get to some connectors under the tank. All right, well, I'm excited to get started. So let's go ahead and get this thing on. Okay, now keeping in mind this is not an install video and you should refer to the manufacturer for stuff like this, I need to get the controller here right between the throttle tube. So the throttle tube was here, you know, like this. I need to get the controller slid on the bar, so I had to take the throttle tube off. In order to get the throttle tube off, and it's a throttle by wire bike, I had to do a couple things. Remove the little sensor wires here, these ones from the front brake housing. I think there's a switch there. The other thing I had to do to get enough play in this cable to pull this off without messing with the handlebar. I could have moved the handlebar a little bit or taken the handlebar off, but then I run into other things. So I decided to pull. You can just gently pull this a little, not bushing, but what do you call this? This little rubber thing out of this guide right here. You've got to create some slack in these cables. So there's enough slack in the cables. So pull this out and we can put this back in that bracket later. When we button everything up, you also got to take these cable ties, removable cable ties off that were here to get the throttle tube off. Also, the throttle tube, you'll remove the black plastic housing with 2 screws on the back of it. And then you see this screw right here. You have to loosen that. That actually clamps the throttle housing to the handlebar. So if you don't loosen that almost all the way, you're not going to be able to move that throttle tube. And there's an index there on the bar with a little hole. So anyway, this is all just to get the controller on. So now what I can do is take my controller, make sure it's oriented correctly, and I can slide my controller on like so. So now we've got cruise control controller installed. Now I just need to get all my handlebars put back together. So you can see it there. That's good. Now I just need to get my throttle housing back on, redo my cables, and then we can do the harder part, I guess, which is lifting the tank up and getting the other connections done. Okay, so I've got the handlebar all put back together, throttle tube back on, the back of the throttle tube on, everything clamped down. I've got the bark buster back in place. My front brake is positioned correctly, and you can see the wire coming out of the controller here, which will route once we get this apart and get the rest of the stuff connected. All right, this is how she's gonna look. So I've got the tank propped up using my high-tech prop rod here. I didn't take the dash off this time, just you can kind of lift this up and lift the tank out of the way. But technically you're supposed to take this thing off and take the dash out. It's just a few more screws, but I've done this before, so I kind of knew how I was, what I wanted to do. You can see the airbox lid under there. Now this looks a little scary, but it's not too bad. So what you end up doing is there's a couple connectors under here. This connector in there, that's part of the heated grip control of the bike, which this bike doesn't have heated grips, but you connect into that. This is the cruise control module. So it connects into that in line, and then it plugs into the other end. And then you also have to remove this connector, which is kind of underneath down here. You have to pull the little thing out of the plastic, because we have to tap, see this purple wire has to be tapped into this blue and black wire here. That's the brake signal. So it needs the controller needs to get a brake signal from the braking system. So I just need to tap this line here with the posi tap thing that they included, or the wire tap. Get all the wiring kind of nice and tidy up inside here so nothing can rub or chafe when we put the tank back in. I've got the wire from the cruise control loosely run along the lines of the original control lines that go in front of the handlebar and then route down through here. So we need to make sure that you can see down in there, I need to secure that properly with zip ties to make sure everything is, as factory as we can make it. Once we get all the wiring done, then it's really just a matter of, putting the tank back on, reassembling the bike, and then we should be good to go. Fingers crossed. It's really not too bad if you've done a little bit of work on your bike before, and this right here, this scene doesn't scare you, then I think you can do it. But you could always have a shop help you with this, or hire a buddy, buy them a case of their favorite drink if you're not too comfortable working on stuff. So I like working on my bike. I like to get to know it and know how things work, know where things are. I just find that to be very, very useful. So I'm going to finish up this install and I'll check back later. Right, well, this is super exciting. It's the next day, as you can see by the morning sunlight here. I got the bike all buttoned back up, got all my fairings back on, everything reattached, all the wires tied up nice and neat. So we got all that looking good. You can see, so really, if you didn't really know to look for it, you'd almost miss that. But you can see the cruise control switch right there. So now it's the moment of truth. I need to get geared up and we need to go out and see how this works. Now, one thing with a system like this, you don't have like up and down speed. You just have really set and cancel. That's fine. We're just going to be grateful to have cruise control, right? So that's okay. I'm hoping everything works well. Anytime you do aftermarket modifications, you're always kind of wondering like, how's this going to work? Is it going to be reliable? And then if there's a wiring issue, tearing all this stuff off again, I'm going to start throwing tools and cursing. I really don't want to tear this off again. I feel like I've torn this bike apart so many times now to do different projects. So anyway, let's go ride and see how she does. Right, well, I have good news for everybody. It works. And not only does it works a lot smoother than I expected. I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't expect it to be kind of as smooth as a factory cruise control, but it actually is. So let me show you how this works. There's really not a whole lot to it. So let's say I want to go 55 miles an hour, which is the speed limit on this road. And of course, we would never ever exceed the speed limit, now would we? So all I do is hit the button. Now, as you can see, we have cruise control. And I've been testing it actually for the past couple hours. I'm just cheating, right? Because I wanted to make the video look professional and everything. But I found that up and down, and I'll show you up here, we're going to go through some undulating up and down terrain. And it actually holds the speed quite well. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. So, see, it dropped 1 mile an hour, but then it's back up to 55. Now, if I want to increase my speed, well, first of all, let me talk about what's going to defeat the cruise control. So if I tap the brake, the front or rear brake, my cruise control disengages, okay? It helps to be smooth when you set the cruise control. Don't set it when you're like accelerating really hard. If you use the throttle, that also turns the cruise control off. So if you want to change your speed, let's say you want to go 60 miles an hour, you just accelerate to 60 and then hit the button again and then set it again. So there's no button to like make your speed go up and down. Of course, you can also just hit the cancel button, and then the cruise control turns itself off. Now here's an interesting thing that I found. So let's say I set the cruise at 50 miles an hour. On most factory bikes, the way they come is if you shift, some bikes with the quick shifter don't do this, but usually if you pull in the clutch and shift, it cancels your cruise control. But with this system, I can shift because I have a quick shifter, or I can, even if I use the clutch. So pulling in the clutch does not cancel it. Using my quick shifter also does not cancel it. So if I'm going 50 miles an hour in 6th gear with cruise control on, and maybe I want to be in 4th gear. I'm in 4th gear. I use the beautiful Honda quick shifter, click down, I'm in 4th gear. It didn't mess with my cruise control. And then I can shift back up. The Transalp's geared pretty tall, so it doesn't even like to be in 6th gear at these speeds. So let me set it to just under 60 miles an hour. There's 59, and I'll show you. So there's a lot of up and down here on this road because we're in the mountains. So it'll drop there to like 58, then it'll go to like 61, but it seems to keep you within about 5% of your set speed, which I think is pretty darn good. So the big picture, I am just over the moon that we can put cruise control on a Transalp for $300. I think that's phenomenal, sensational, and really transforms this bike into the touring bike. It's already a great touring bike, but this solidifies it as the best middleweight adventure touring bike you can get, especially if you consider the price point. I mean, my gosh. It also makes me think, why in the world is Honda not putting cruise control on this motorcycle? I mean, look, I can ride without my hands, not that I recommend doing that, but it's such a comfortable, stable motorcycle for touring. That's such a good engine for touring. Why didn't they have cruise control? I think because the Africa Twin, they want you to buy the Africa Twin, so I think that's my opinion. But anyway, this Veridian Cruise is absolutely amazing. It's transformed the bike. If you have a Transalp, in my opinion, you'd be crazy not to get this for your bike. Honestly, why wouldn't you want this? It's so amazing, and it looks factory. All right, so let's do the tubeless wheel conversion for the Honda Transalp. Now, a couple things. I don't have any affiliation with this company, Outex. I don't have an affiliate program. I don't know anything about them. I ordered the stuff on eBay. So is it good or bad? I don't really know. I know other people use it, but part of the reason to do this is to test this out and see how well it works. So let me kind of orient you to the kit. So you can see right here, it's Outex clear tubeless kit. It says front and rear set for Tiger, KTM 990, Africa Twin, XL 750 Transalp. Tells the rim sizes and things like that. So they're different kits for different sizes and types of rim. What you get in the kit, you get the instructions, you get the tape for the spokes, you get two kinds of different tape to seal the rims, you get tubeless valve stems, which are down in here. Other things you're going to need, they give you some white gloves, so I guess the white glove treatment, I guess what we're going to get. Other things you're going to need like a thinner solvent like acetone to clean the rims. You're going to need a heat gun or a blow dryer, so get your wife's blow dryer from the house. She'll love that. It's going to be easy if you have something like this Tusk tire balancing and truing stand. These are really affordable. I like this setup. It allows me to put the rim up on here, not only balance my tires, but also work on the rim like we're going to be doing today. So I'll link that below. So anyway, going by the instructions here, we first need to get the wheels off the bike. We'll start with the front, dismount the tire, start to get the rim cleaned up per the instructions, and yeah, then we'll go from there and see how this works. As I started to take the tire off, I realized we really should talk briefly about what are the potential pros and cons of tubeless wheels setup versus tubes. There's so much chatter out there about, gosh, why don't bikes like the Transalp and the v-strom 800 and a 10RE 700 just have tubeless wheel sets? So the issue is a little bit more complicated than you might think. So the pros and cons of tubes versus tubeless. The pros of tubeless setup, it's lighter. It's going to handle better because you have less rotating weight. Tires may last longer because there's less heat building up. But mostly what people think of is it's easy to repair a puncture with the plug kit. As opposed to if you have tubes, you have to dismount the tire from the rim while you're sitting on the side of the highway or the side of the trail and deal with all that and then get the new tube in and try not to pinch it. So the ease of repair of puncture of tubeless is a key thing. What are the downsides of tubeless? Well, there are some, and this doesn't get talked about enough. So the reason that a lot of dirt bike type riders and enduro riders really only use tubes, and the reason you see tubes on off-road bikes is because if you put a big enough cut in, if you're running a tubeless tire and you cut the tire, you can't seal that with a plug. So now you're still stuck putting a tube in it anyway. So what was the advantage really? Also, if you've tried to seat the bead on some tubeless tires, it can take a lot of pressure, a lot of air pressure to get the bead to pop onto the rim. And so if you don't have the ability to do that on the side of the highway or the side of the trail, which you may not, how are you going to get that tire to seat? Try to get it, to that bead to seat so you can actually air up the tire properly. So that is an issue. With a tube, you can stick a tube in, and even at low pressure, you can get to your next stop or get down the road or get home or whatever it is. So, there's pros and cons here, but I do think for a bike like the Transalp, which is primarily a touring bike with some off-road, I do think a tubeless setup would make more sense because, it's just easy to repair those punctures that most people are going to have, and people aren't competing in enduro events with their Honda Transalp. So, anyway, those are some of the pros and cons to each. Okay, so we've got our front rim here. I took off the factory. You're going to have to remove the factory rim strip. The factory rim strip is just a barrier between these spoke nipples and your tube so that it doesn't rub up against it and potentially cause a puncture. You have to pull that off. Now the instructions say to sand the rough edges of the rim, and they show them like sanding the sides of the rim like here. But I don't really think I want to do that because I think these little ridges on the sides, I don't see how that's going to interfere with the tape. Plus, as far as I understand, that's part of the retention of the tire to help prevent the bead of the tire, from slipping on the rim. So I don't really want to do that. Plus, that would take like hours. So I'm going to kind of say, well, there's not really rough edges here. Plus I've got these like screw heads, and in the picture they show a rim that just sort of has like these flat spoke nipples. So again, you kind of have to use your best judgment on these kinds of things. So I'm going to skip to the step where we clean the rim with a solvent, get any oils or residue off here. I'll probably put on clean gloves too, and then put the little stickers on all the spoke heads, and then we'll proceed from there. All right, well, here we go. This is the double-sided tape to start sealing the rim. I put the little circular pieces of tape that they give you on all the spoke nipples, and I kind of used a heat gun to kind of warm this up to make it adhere really well. They also say in the instructions, if you're in a cold climate, like if it's below, like, I don't know, 45 Fahrenheit or whatever that is in Celsius, maybe heat things up or work in the house if it's too cold in the garage. It's actually a warm day today, surprisingly for January here. So anyway, so now they say start here, one nipple away from the valve hole, and start applying this double-sided tape, doing it evenly and correctly, which I have a hard time with because I suck at this kind of stuff. So I'm going to do this and then report back. All right, well, you ever get the feeling when you're doing a project and you're like, I don't know if this is really right, or it just feels like it's off? Kind of have that feeling here. So full disclosure, I could be screwing this up because I'm not patient enough, and I'm not good at this kind of detailed project. I just get impatient. It could totally be my fault and not the product. The pictures show like a flat rim surface, but of course this has like a U-shaped, so it's very difficult or impossible to get all the air bubbles out or to apply this stuff in a way. So there's 2 layers of stuff you put on, then you put the tubeless valve stem in, then you put another thing here. You just follow the instructions. You're basically taping and sealing up, these spokes to not leak air. But my concern is a couple things. When the tires are being mounted and dismounted, how is that not going to move this or somehow interfere with this? And also, are some of these air pockets going to be an issue in terms of sealing? I just don't know. And again, it could be because I'm just not very good at this kind of project and I messed it up because I'm being impatient. But I just had a really hard time with this. So I'll be surprised if this works in hold air, but I guess we're going to find out. So they say in the thing, mount the tire and air it up soon. It helps, I guess, seat the system or whatever. So we'll go ahead and do that now. So I got the new Tusk tire, which I'm filming that video at the same time as this. Got it mounted up. It did seat. I did have to kind of fidget with it a little bit to get the bead to pop on, because without a tube, the air can just escape around the sides of the tire. So you have to have kind of a good compressor to kind of shoot the air in quick to get that bead to pop in. Anyway, I did that, and it's holding air for now, but again, the test is going to be to see if this thing holds air overnight or over the period of a week, because I'm just really doubtful about it based on how it looked during the install. But at this point, I'm happy. We'll see if I'm happy later on if this thing just leaks down or what. If it leaks down, I think I'm just going to give up at that point and put a tube in and just call it a day, because I don't really mind tubes myself. It's just I'm just trying to show this for other people who might want to do it. So anyway, I'll check back later. All right, keen-eyed viewers will notice that I've in different clothes. That means it's the next day. Yesterday I had to run off down the mountain to do some work stuff. So the front tire is holding air. Let me show you. So that's great news. And I'm going on a long ride tomorrow. So the front's holding air, so I'm really happy about that with the tubeless system. Here's how the rear rim looks once you put all the tape and everything on. And I've also got the valve stem in here too. I need to put the nuts on. I'm actually pretty impressed with how this works. It seems a little dubious when you're trying to put this on flat because the spokes stick out, so you're not applying the tape to a flat surface, but there's going to be air bubbles. There's just no way around that. So you do your best to work them out. You can use a tire spoon. You can heat it up a little bit with the hairdryer. But really, the rear is easier than the front, because the front you're pushing into that U-shaped channel. The rear's flat, so it seems to be doing a lot better. I hope this one holds air like the front one is. I think it will. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rear tire, which is sitting out in the sun getting nice and toasty. Get that rear tire spooned on. Get this aired up. The other thing to note that since now you don't have tubes when you're putting on your new tire, getting the bead to pop on, you're going to need a blast of air to kind of pop that bead on because you don't have the tube expanding the bead against the side of the rim. So another thing to keep in mind when you switch to the tubeless. But it does make tire changing really nice because you're not wrestling with tubes anymore. So I definitely admit that that's a pretty big advantage. So anyway, I'm going to finish this up and check back later. All right, well, things are not going as I hoped. I was just finished washing the bike, getting it ready to take a few photos, and there's air coming out of this spoke right here, so I must have like developed a hole or something. So I guess I gotta take this off again and try to fix the leak, or just put a tube in it at this point. I'm not really sure what I'm going to end up doing. I also thought about putting like some sealant in the tire. Maybe that's something that, you know, would be a real world thing that people might do. I'm not really sure, but I'll figure it out and report back. The front is still fine. I just, now that that's leaking, I wonder, I just kind of don't have the confidence in the front now. But you know, we'll take tire repair stuff with us when we do the big ride coming up. So I don't know, that's where I am for now. All right, well, let me know if you see the problem. So I marked, before I took the wheel off, I had to take this whole thing apart yet again, and I'm trying to like stay calm and not like just hurl expletives all over the garage. But anyway, took it off and I marked the spoke. So this spoke, you see how there's like a little air bubble connecting the spoke over to the side of the rim tape? So I didn't do a good enough job getting all the bubbles out, and apparently the air is like getting through this little gap and then finding its way out this spoke. So I mean, I'll check around again, but I'm going to heat things up a little bit and then kind of push a lot of these air bubbles out, and maybe even give the tire a wrap of Gorilla Tape just for like extra insurance. I don't know, but the thing is, I'm just a little skeptical of this because, like, what if you change a tire and this gets nicked a little bit and then it starts to leak? Like, it seems like a really kind of, how do I say it politely, like, doesn't seem like the right solution. You know what I mean? Like, the solution is to have a rim that's just tubeless. Because if this breaks or goes wrong on your ride, it could ruin your day, because now you got to get a tow truck, you got to try to take your tire off inside the road, or you could even cause a crash if you go flat on the freeway. So I'm not so sure about how I feel about this kind of a solution. I don't have really good peace of mind with it, and that's kind of a problem. So anyway, I'm going to try to fix this and then we'll check back. On the tubeless stuff, I've been out riding for a couple hours now, testing these Tuss tires, and pressure seemed to be holding. I'll need to check them every day, and I'm doing another big ride tomorrow. So we'll see, but fingers crossed it's going to hold up. If it does work, that's great, but I still kind of have that feeling in the back of my mind, like, what if this goes wrong? That I'm out here getting dark, it's getting dark, sun goes down, and I'm trying to deal with a flat tire because of the tubeless system. So I don't know. I'm still not sure about it. I'm not really sold on it yet, but it seems to be holding up for now. I checked online. A lot of people on the forums, you know, have really good luck with this system, but then again, there's some people who've had the same issues I've had. So I don't know. We'll keep running it. We'll see how it goes. And check out the video that I'm doing on the Tuss tires. It's probably already gone out by the time you're seeing this, but these Tuss tires are honestly pretty darn impressive. All right, so I've had the tubeless system installed for a couple of weeks now, and I can kind of share some more thoughts. So I'm still seeing a very small pressure loss. It's pretty minor, and some of it could just be to the dramatic temperature fluctuations I have where I live. I mean, it'll be 20 degrees at night and 65 degrees during the day. It's all in Fahrenheit, but it messes with the air pressures a lot. I'm pretty happy with the stability in terms of the air pressure. A couple other benefits I noticed. The suspension seems to work a little better, and I think because that you've removed unsprung weight from the bike. Other thing is, the bike feels noticeably quicker. I think because you have that less rotating mass in the wheel set without the tube. You have less friction, you have less weight, and it does seem a little snappier, better acceleration. So that's an added benefit. You know, potentially you could get a tiny benefit of fuel economy too, because you're just making the system more efficient without the tubes in there and making it lighter. So those are some nice benefits. And of course, the main benefit is, you know, fixing punctures now is very, very easy. If this was my own bike I was going to keep like for the next few years, would I do the tubeless on it? I mean, I don't know, I'm 50-50 on that because I'm a little worried about the reliability of that tape. If it develops a leak, it means pulling the tire off the rim. So I don't know. I'm really 50-50. I can't split it. I can't really make the decision. It's a tough one. There's some really nice benefits, but since it's not a factory system, I just kind of have that thought in the back of my mind is what if this thing goes wrong? So I don't know. I'm split. Maybe I would get it. I guess I would get it. I would just need more time to kind of feel like more testing for a few thousand miles to like before I like rode to Alaska or something. I guess, but I don't know. There's my thoughts on the tubeless for what it's worth. All right, well, I hope this episode has been useful. I hope you learned something about the cruise control and the tubeless wheel conversion kit. It really is pretty cool that we have aftermarket companies providing solutions to problems that we have on these bikes. So I think it's really rad. I enjoy it. I love working on and modifying my bike and trying to make it better. And I hope you will too. So keep in mind, if you're going to get the cruise control, use the code BIGROCKMOTO at checkout when you're ordering from Veridian Cruise to get that 12% discount. And I do get a small commission on those sales, just so we're clear about that relationship. Now, if you like the Honda Transalp, there's one more episode coming out. Actually, one or two more episodes. So episode 9 and 10, we're going to cover the comparisons between the Transalp, the v-strom 800DE, the Aprilia Touareg, the Yamaha Tenere 700, the KTM 790 and 890, and all those things that you all have been asking me over the past several months. Please compare these bikes. Ian, we want to know which one should I get. Of course, it's never a clear answer, but I'm going to give you some test scores, some comparisons. We're going to look at some things that differentiate those bikes and kind of hopefully help you make a decision there. I'm going to be answering your questions about the Transalp, so if you have questions you want answered in that video, please submit them here below. And we'll be wrapping up any final loose ends that we have with the Honda Transalp. It's not that I don't like the Transalp, I really do, but I have to move on to test other bikes. That's just how my business works. That's how this channel works. And there's other bikes out there to test. But I really have enjoyed my time with the Transalp, and I'm going to be sad to see it go. A few of you have expressed interest in purchasing this bike. I'm going to be selling it here in the coming couple weeks. So if that describes you and you're local to Southern California, please shoot me an email at info@bigrockmedia.net. so I can follow up on those inquiries. All right, I hope this episode has been useful. Please consider supporting Big Rock Moto. There's ways to do that in the pinned comment and the description below. I appreciate you watching. Please ride safe, and I'll see you out there.